Hello again.
Hello. How are you, everyone? Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi,
Kelly.
Kelly.
Hi
Hi,
guys.
Kelly. Hey, Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hi John. Hi John. Nice to see you.
You too.
Here we go.
Do, 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 do.
We have just a few more people coming in the room. Hang on.
No worries.
All right.
You let me know when you feel like we're good.
They're popping in one at a time right now. Hold on.
Alrighty.
Okay, I think we can begin.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. Welcome.
Sure. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome, 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 welcome. How is everyone today? It is a beautiful, beautiful spring day, finally, here in New York City. I will say finally, as we've had some on and off weather. For those of you who I have not yet met or I have not seen in a while, I am Kelly Woodruff. I am today's special guest host, I guess. I'm very excited to be here. Eric and Jillian asked me to join you guys and sort of lead us today because of our topic. They thought that that would be relevant. Our topic for this whole month, as you guys probably know, is self-care. For those of you who don't know, I'm just going to give you a really quick background on myself so that you know who's talking to you. It's always a good thing. I am a, I'll say it, I'm a senior practitioner of the reconnection and reconnective healing. That means that I have been doing this work. I am in my 20th year this year. So I have been around for quite a while. I have been blessed to travel with Eric. When I first got into the work, I traveled with him to teach. At the time, believe it or not, you guys, we were teaching about 40 weekends a year. That's 40, as down to now where we do, much less. And I traveled with Eric about 25 weeks a year for about 5 or 6 years, and then sort of started to pare back. I was also blessed to be able to lead at then level 1. I am one of the few people at that time that was granted the opportunity to teach that. So I did that. I also was head of teacher training for a bit. And more germane to this conversation is I'm one of the main founders of Reconnective Yoga, of what we call Reconnective Yoga. And for those of you who don't know, we have an ongoing Reconnective Zoom yoga class on Saturdays that happens. We're right this minute. We are in the midst of our spring 2021 series. We're 3 weeks in. We're taking a break this week because we're all going to be at the Catalyst, but we start again next week. And in that series, we actually take the opportunity to explore the marriage of reconnective healing and the ancient science of yoga. And we have a really, I don't know, I always try to tell everyone it's really fun. It's the level that you need it to be. It's an open level for everyone. And we've had a lot of great response. This time around, we have about just around 40 people enrolled all over the world. So, and Cecilia is my co-host. Every week we get together and she sort of runs the technical part, and I'm on the mat with my 2 assistants, Maya and Dante, my dogs, and so we have a lot of fun. So that's a little bit about me, and so with that, let's just kind of dive in, if you'd like, to this topic of self-care, specifically the physicality of self-care. That's really what we're going to focus on today. We're really going to focus on physical self-care. But before we do that, because I'm who I am, when Eric and Jillian asked me to talk to you guys this week and sort of lead us through some stuff, I just took a moment and I did a little bit of research. I wanted to do a little bit of research really about just the general idea. Hi, Noel, how are you? Nice to see you. The general topic of self-care, if you will, because I like to do my research. I'm always happy to learn and find out some stuff about anything I'm going to talk about beyond. I'd like to, Eric said one time, to teach something, you have to know 500 times more than what you're teaching. And so in the spirit of that, I went digging and found some stuff out. So self-care. So what are some words that we think about when we think some sort of synonyms, some words that mean self-care? What might those things be? The things that I came up with are self-management, stress management, stress reduction, unplugging, rehabilitative. All of these are words that we think of about self-care, but self-care is really anything that you do to take care of yourself so that you can stay physically, mentally, and emotionally well. So it's, I think one of the things that happens sometimes is people can get a little bit off track about really what self-care is, because they'll say, well, my self-care is I'm going to go to the bar and have a few drinks because that's the way I need to unplug. But really, if we take a step back and think about self-care as things that really help us to stay well, we recognize that the activities that we want to engage in around self-care are really things that are more, to help us rest, rejuvenate, relax, restore. So the benefits of of self-care, are it's more than just physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being. It's more than that. And because research suggests that self-care promotes positive health outcomes. In other words, it keeps you from getting sick so often, or it also fosters resilience and helps you to live longer and really become better equipped at managing if you do have a health problem, or also managing stress. So really, self-care is a long-term goal. It's a long game. It's not just the in the minute, I need to take a break and run outside and go for a walk, which is great. But really, we're talking about self-care wanting to be something that we engage in on the long term. So it really sets us up so that we can be better equipped to deal with the things that come to us in life. Now, I'm going to take a pause here because one of the thoughts that I've been having a lot in it always when I talk about yoga and reconnective yoga, I talk about the frequencies, right? We talk about how in reconnective yoga, the frequencies enhances our experience of yoga and the yoga practice, right? I think that it's really important right at this moment to pause and say, anything that we do regarding self-care enhanced by the frequencies is going to give us that much more, right? Anything that we do, anything that we choose to do that's going to move us forward in our awareness of the frequencies while we do these activities to rest, restore, nurture, all those things, is going to give us enhanced benefits, just like reconnective yoga does. That's the big deal about reconnective yoga, is that it's not just a yoga practice, but it's a yoga practice imbued with our awareness of the frequencies. So moving on a little bit, I also just, again, wanted to know if anybody out there had a definition, any formal, like, governing body had any kind of definition of self-care. Well, indeed they do. There are a lot of them. There's the WHO, World Health Organization, had one. The AMA had one, but I like the one that comes from the UK Department of Health, because I think this sort of encompasses a lot of what really, the long game of health, of self-care really is. So they say self-care is a part of daily living, right? Long term. It is the care taken by individuals towards their own health and well-being, and includes the care extended to their children, family, friends, and others in the neighborhoods and local communities. Self-care includes the actions individuals and carers take for themselves, their children, their families, and others to stay fit and maintain good physical and mental health, meet social and psychological needs, prevent illness or accidents, care for minor ailments and long-term conditions, and maintain health and well-being after acute illness or discharge from the hospital. So basically what they're saying is that when we engage in healthcare, when we engage in self-care, it's funny I keep saying healthcare, when we engage in self-care, we're not just affecting ourselves, we're not just taking a moment for ourselves, but it's also extended to those around us. It's again sort of a moment that I took, because when I talk about doing the reconnection with people after their reconnection, I always tell them that the choice to partake, to have a reconnection, is a very important one and sacred one, because it doesn't just affect them, but it affects everyone around them. And God knows we all could use a little light on the planet, right? So when people choose to, when I tell them when they choose to do the reconnection, they're helping everyone on the planet. Well, I think in the same way, whenever anyone engages in an act of true self-care, they are helping everyone around them, including people beyond their perhaps reach, or even the people that they know. So it's just something to think about. So another really interesting little tidbit fact that I came up with is that during the pandemic, Google search showed more people had been searching for the word self-care, for self-care tips and tricks, more during the lockdown. Now, I kind of find that pretty ironic, right? Because most of us spend our lives, kind of zooming around, right? Just running from one thing to another in this very pressure sort of stress, a lot of stress that people deal with, just the stresses and the strains of daily life. Only when they were forced to sit with themselves, or maybe with their families or their kids or their husbands or wives or partners or whatever, did they really take a moment and think, wait a minute, wow, I need to engage in some self-care here. So that really says something, right? Because if you think about the kinds of lives that many people live, certainly pre-pandemic, it's more or less killing us, right? Ultimately, the kind of stress that most people deal with, hopefully not as many people in this community, hopefully all of us here have come to be more conscious and more mindful, and have sort of found ways to mitigate or deal with our stresses in ways, including our engagement with the frequencies, including using the frequencies to help others, including doing self-healing. Hopefully we have in this community started to step away from that treadmill a bit. But most people in the world, basically, are engaging in life in such a way that sort of heading them for an early grave, right? And so we have the opportunity, again, when we're engaging with the frequencies as a healing modality, or even as just a self-care modality, I guess you would say, that we have the opportunity to sort of disconnect from that rat race. So I found it really interesting that Google says that, people, when faced with their selves, basically, because they were on lockdown, they realized that they needed some self-care. And I think that that's really interesting, because, it's just like anything. When you take a moment of introspection, you certainly have the opportunity to sort of really feel what's going on. That's, again, one of our tenets of reconnective yoga, is we very often take our time, slow down, and just observe. What do we feel? What do we notice? What does that sound like? Sounds like a healing session to me, right? Sounds like when we engage in healing with ourselves, for ourselves or with others, to bring the reconnected healing frequencies to allow those people to interact. What do? We slow down and we just notice. We interact in that way. So yeah, I think it's also interesting that, by the way, prior to Google searches spiking on self-care, the other two things that were really popular during the pandemic were cooking and stress. So I don't know about you guys, but I know I certainly found the COVID-19 right here through the center, maybe the COVID-25, working on getting rid of it. But anyway, cooking was a bit popular by Google. So anyway, it really is time for all of us, I think, everybody in the world. And again, I know that I'm sort of speaking to the choir here, but I do think it's time for us to remember that including these little changes and pampering ourselves is something that could easily become, perhaps we would all benefit from, if we would just take that time whether it's just getting enough sleep or, eating meals on time, healthy nutritional meals on time, or, having time to pursue a hobby or read a book, making that time to do that is really important. So there are basically have been identified 8 sort of different areas or ways, topics, or categories, I guess, of self-care that I found that have been defined by the American Psychiatric Association, which is an interesting sort of body to sort of look at self-care. And they define it as follows. There are 8 main areas: self-care: psychological, emotional, social, professional, environmental, spiritual, financial, and then what's going to be our prime focus today, physical. I thought those were an interesting grouping, and I just want to touch all of them quickly because I think each of us has an opportunity to reflect for just a minute about the types of self-care that we do engage in and the types of self-care that we don't really even think of as self-care. That was my experience when I read this list down. So the first thing that they list is psychological self-care, and things like practicing mindfulness and your creativity. Some are some examples. Also reading a book and learning a new skill, or doing what they call a digital detox. In other words, turning off your phone, turning off your computer, not looking at social media. All of those things are sort of expressions of psychological self-care that I think, again, in this past time that we've been in, for those of us that were in lockdown or are still in, perhaps some of you, I think that really this psychological part of self-care could be really important because it was quite easy to get really squirrely. I know one of the things that I did was I sort of went in and reorganized the way that I operate my other business, sort of did a lot of work in that. And just the mental practice of sort of breaking things down and restacking them up, if you will, was really helpful for me. So that's psychological self-care. And second, they call out is emotional self-care. So enhancing emotional literacy, which I loved that phrase. I thought that was really great. Navigating emotions, increasing empathy, and managing stress effectively. Some examples are, I love this, some examples of emotional self-care are saying no. What? Everybody's like, oh, I get to say no. Yes, you get to say no sometimes. Making time for reflecting on your feelings. That's another big thing. That's something that I actually, it was resonant with me too, because I know sometimes if I don't slow down and really think about what's going on for me, I get very reactive, and can be not pretty. Right? It's not a face that I want to put out to the world. But that if I just take time and really think about what it is that's going on for me, I find out I'll have those moments. Practicing self-compassion and being aware of your own emotional boundaries. All of those are great, very, seemingly basic. I wrote a note down further down in my notes, and I said, I know that some of these things seem really simple and really simplistic, but upon further examination, I think we would probably all be surprised at how many people, and probably including ourselves, very often don't take these very simple steps to do that. Next, social self-care. So this is a good one. I love this because it's just about having a supportive group and network of relationships around you that you can trust and turn to. So there are things that you can do to build social self-care, like, honoring your commitments to other people, asking for help when you need it, meeting new people, spending time with friends and family. All of these are examples of social self-care. Next is their category is professional self-care. This one, I thought this was really interesting because some of these things I do automatically. Some of these things I was like, so sharing your strengths and gifts, having clear professional boundaries, and living your purpose. Some examples are creating or contributing to a pleasant working environment, what can you do, or what would you do to create or to foster a pleasant working environment? Next, negotiating your needs. So negotiating your needs with your fellow workers, negotiating your needs with your employer, perhaps with your clients, having clear professional boundaries. And I think that that's really important. Again, some of us who are in the healing arts, for example, maybe when we first began, we found that it's quite easy to sort of let your professional, personal boundaries kind of get a little bit flexible. And I think, yes.
This is wonderful about the personal boundaries, and we just wanted to make sure this time at this moment, there's a note for you.
Oh, and I can't see. I'm not seeing it.
Oh.
Yes, there it is. Let me see. Yes. Okay, so YouTube viewers, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate that you have done that. I would very, very much encourage you guys to join the RLC in the link below. Go down to the link below and click the link, because as this chit chat goes on, we're going to do some exercises, some actual physical stuff, and I know you don't want to miss that. And it will be available to you when you sign up for the RLC. So go click the link below. Also, I believe below is the link to registration for Reconnective Yoga, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully that's in the chat as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And for those of you staying with us, are we good? Anna, was that okay? Anna says, yes. Okay. So we were on professional self-care, right? So basically it's just having professional boundaries. Environmental self-care, having an organized, well-maintained, clutter-free work, business, and home environment. I am a clean freak, so this one for me was like, I'm right there. Having clean clothes and clean and well-maintained mode of transport. Some examples are decluttering your home or your work environment, monitoring technology time, that's important, cleaning up after a meal, maintaining a clean and safe living environment. These are all just basic things that we may not think of as self-care, but when we recognize that we're creating this environment that we're living in, we understand that that's really maybe one of the biggest expressions.
Namaste, everyone. Good morning, namaste. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from, wherever you are. We are so glad, as always, to have you all here. Welcome to, this is our way up. And I want you to think up. Now, I don't want you to think bending to the side. I want you to think up, breathing up. Inhale the frequencies up from the tailbone, up to the big ball in the hand. And as you exhale, reach out and up. Reach up and over. Pull it up into your thigh. Now reach your hands out to the side. Establish your connection to the frequencies in your palms right now.
Minded people, and especially if we're all brought together by the healing frequencies, what better way to spend our Saturday? As you exhale, begin to walk your hands towards your feet, and that awareness on the frequencies rise up. Lift the ball of frequencies up overhead.
You know, heart opening in our heart, in our world, not just in our yoga practice, but anytime, the more that we can open our heart, the more that we have access to our joy. So heart openers in yoga are, pull your left hand across your pelvis, act like pulling the drawstring on a bow, so that it pulls you back. You reach way forward, reaching way forward with the right hand. Drop the right hand down, either to the ground, in front or in back, or perhaps resting on your shin. Use the hand to open the stomach muscles, the ribs, so that your back is flat to the back wall. Reach the hand out and up.
Hey there, family. Dr. Eric and Jillian here.
Welcome, everyone.
And we're very excited about Reconnective Life, our first online global community. This is the most exciting way we've been able to get together since I founded the Reconnection. It'll be a place where we can do things together. We'll move into breakout rooms at times when that's appropriate. We'll have energy interactions and meditations and exercises. In other words, expect things you haven't seen before.
You are so charged.
Thanks.
He is so lit about every new way we get to be together every day. Just be together. Let us just speak a little bit about what is going to be the shape of this community.
In this community, we can share and discover more. Here we can talk to each other, we can chat, we can learn from and about one another. Jillian, me, our life leaders, and you will be in daily conversation with you. Weekly, we will have Facebook Lives.
We will be with you every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be just Eric. On occasion, it might just be me. Sometimes it'll be the two of us. It's all about giving you a way to look at the week living in the frequencies.
And in every fourth week, we will include a live Q&A so we can talk about things that have been coming up for us, discuss back and forth, share, grow, expand together.
And the ever-growing library of content that has been created over 20 years that will be on demand for you. It will be on-demand content for you to view, enjoy, share again with your inner circle.
And monthly, we are going to have live Zoom retreats.
We're going to bring in some exercises and experiences and things that previously we've reserved for our physical retreats, you know, when we were in the different location resorts and things. And we're modifying them so that we can work with these with you in your home, in your living room, in your den.
Put into the chat line, what is facility?
We're having these weekly Zoom in-depth Q&As.
Finally, we have a place and space to just define what does that really mean living in the frequencies.
This is something that is in all of us.
Everyone can do this.
It doesn't matter how many levels you've gone through or how well you know the programs. It's a community that allows us to recognize how interrelated we all are as receivers of energy, light, and information.
See you there.
Reconnective Life, living in the frequencies every day.